In this video, I will go over how to solve a set of simultaneous equations using one of the apps you may well have on your TI graphing calculator. The problem we're going to have is that often we'll have situations where we've got one unknown that's part of a set of equations, and we can't just solve, for an example, the first equation right here for x and say we're done because we don't know what y and z are. Y and z appear in other equations. So the only way to get x is in fact to simultaneously solve all of these three equations. Now we may or may not be interested in y or z. We may only want x, but we can't get x without solving all three equations. They have to be solved simultaneously. So we're going to go over how to do this. And I'm not going to worry so much about how your calculator is doing this. You could almost consider it to be black magic. In fact, if you watch the other video on matrices, what your calculator literally does is it does a matrix operation. So what we're going to do is go over just how to do this, because this is a physics class, it's not a math class. The way we're going to do this first is write the equations in what I'm going to call standard format. This will involve having all of the unknowns with their coefficients on one side of the equations and all of the constants on the other side of the equation. And we're also going to write the unknowns always in the exact same order, x, then y, then z. Then we're going to form effectively a set of matrices. And the coefficients will all be in a 3 by 3 matrix, and the constants will be over here in a 3 by 1 matrix. And we're going to enter those into your calculator using the app called PlySmlt2. That is probably on your calculator. If it is not, you can come see me. I could give you a copy of it, or you could download it from the TI website. Then we're going to simply enter the numbers and let the calculator do the calculations for us. So the first thing we're going to do is take, these are the equations I put on the first screen, and rewrite them in a standard format. So what we're going to do is take the z and bring it over the other side of the equation, take the 45, bring it to that side of the equation, and this is what we have for our first equation written in standard format. The second one, we're going to bring the y over here and the 5 over there. And the only difference is I'm going to explicitly note that z has a coefficient of 0 so that we always have x, then y, then z. Same thing we're going to do over here, bring the x over here, and we have minus 2x plus 2y minus 3z equals minus 19. So notice in all of these equations we have x written first, y written second, z written third, and then we have the constants on the other side of the equation. We can then populate the matrices. This contains all of the constants or the coefficients in the first equation. These are all the coefficients in the second and all the coefficients in the third. And these are all the constants. The way we reconstruct the original three equations is by taking the row right here, multiply it by that column, and set it equal to the first number up right here. So 2 times x minus 4 times y plus 5 times z equals minus 33 is our first equation. Do the same thing for the second row, equal to the second constant right here, and we get the second equation, and the same thing for the last row. So this is just an alternate way of writing our three equations and three unknowns. Now we're going to enter these into our calculator. Use the app button you have on your calculator, and you'll get a list of all the applications that your calculator has. Hopefully one of them will be this this app for solving polynomial equations and simultaneous equations. So select that option. It may or may not be the fourth one on your list. And this is the main menu you should be getting. Notice one thing it'll do is it'll solve polynomial equations, and the second one is solving simultaneous equations. So select 2, and you'll get a screen that looks like this. We have 3 equations and 3 unknowns, so I'm going to enter these 2. I want my answer in decimal format. You could also express it in scientific notation if you wanted. We're not going to do any calculations with any trig function, so we don't need to worry about that. Now to move on to the next screen, you need to hit the button right here, which corresponds to this button right here. This right here will bring you back to the main menu, so hitting the y equals will bring you back to the main menu. Hitting trace will give you a help screen, and hitting this next button, which is the graph button, will move you on to the second screen. Here we're going to enter all of the coefficients and constants. So all of the coefficients go right here, 2, minus 4, and 5. And on the other side of this bar will go the constant for the first equation. and do the same thing for the second and the third. So we've entered right here all of our constants and all of our coefficients. And again, this right here are the buttons, and the solve button right here corresponds to this. So hit graph again, and what it'll do is it'll spit out the answers. x1, which is the first unknown, which in this case is x, is minus 0.5. The second one is 3. The third one is 4. So x is minus 0.5, y is 3, z is minus 4, and that's our answer.